Hey there, Emma here, and in 2023 I hosted a painting challenge called Dogtober where we painted a different dog breed every day of the month. You may have seen some of the clips that I posted on Shorts at the time, just showing like a few little clips from each painting, but I've decided to go and pull out the real-time footage and share them this year so you can follow along if you'd like to. A couple of disclaimers/explainers. The point of the challenge for me was that I wanted to try and loosen up. I'm a realistic portrait artist, and so I gave myself a smaller size to work with as well as a time frame. I'm painting on roughly about A6 size paper, which is pretty small. In terms of measurements, that's like roughly 10.5 centimeters by 14.8 centimeters or 4.1 by 5.8 inches. And I also tried to set myself a time limit of about 15 minutes. I really wanted to challenge myself to loosen up, but you can approach this any way you like. Maybe you'll do it in a different medium or a certain color palette. The options are endless, totally up to you, but you're more than welcome to follow along, and these are kind of like mini tutorials. I do want to point out though that as this was unusual for me and a challenge to me, not all of them are that good. I really struggled in the beginning to start loosening up, and particularly struggled with the long-haired dogs. But you know, it's an adventure and you'll see me progress through the month and learn a lot. If you want to grab the outline sketches, I have put all 31 sketches into a document, a PDF that you can download from my website. I will link that in the description. You'll just need to pop your email address in, which will sign you up to my mailing list, but then you'll get the document with all 31 outline sketches, roughly about the same size that I'm painting. You're more than welcome to print them, trace them, size them up or down if you need to. I'll be working with my usual set of supplies and mixing colors as well, but I will talk you through the process as we go. Let's jump in. Day 14 of Dogtober, and we are painting a dachshund. Am I going to say it like that ever again in this tutorial? No, I'm just going to call it a dashi, but there you go. Did you know it means badger dog in German? You've learnt something else today. We are going to get started by mixing up some colors. So I am mixing up a black color for the fur, well, most of the fur on the dashi, and I'm doing that by creating purple out of primary blue and red, and then I'm going to add yellow to neutralize that whole puddle. We're also going to use a little bit of orange and brown. I've still got a bit of orange on my palette in the other side of the palette, and I'm just going to reactivate that and create a brown with that later as well. But if you need an orange, pretty easy, just yellow and red, and you can make some of that brown by adding blue. So I've got this beautiful purple color now. Let's add some yellow. Cleaning off my brush before dipping in. Why I just stamped in red, I'll never know. Anyway, so working that yellow all the way through there, and you can see at the moment it's more of just a muted purple. It's not a proper black color yet or close to it. I'm just going to add some blue to deepen it. All I've done is just make that whole puddle really blue. Put a little bit of red in there. I'm just going to keep playing this game until we get a color that we want. So still looking like a dirty dark purple. Let's add more yellow. Mix it all the way through, and we're looking a lot better now. This is another one of my favorite paintings of the month. You know, I didn't love all of them, but I really like the looseness that I achieved on this one, which was my whole goal. So we are going to get started now, and we are going to paint a couple of elements in before the black fur. So I want to get the orange down because it is lighter than that black color, so it's easier to cover it up. And if you paint everything black and just leave the gaps for the orange, you might reactivate that black and ruin that little orange area. Whereas if we paint it in now and then negatively paint around it, it'll be preserved. So I'm painting in these tiny little eyebrows that sit at the front of their brow. They're so cute. They're kind of like blobby triangular. Feel free to paint them bigger than you need them because we will be negatively painting around them with the black color, and we can just cut them in. I'm also going to paint this color around the muzzle. So a little bit on the far side, but its head is on an angle, which is a really good thing for dogs with long snoots. They can look a bit funny if we paint them head on. So it's got its nose off to the side, so we don't see much of that side, but we can see more of this side. So I'm very kind of loosely trying to sketch this in. I'm not trying to make it perfect. I'm not trying to fill every space on the page, but just sketching that up on the side of the snoot, side of the nose, and then bringing that down to the bottom of the mouth. on the bottom of the nose, under the nose. Tucking that around the other side, and we will meet it up where we painted the first little shape. Looks crazy right now. Looks like it's got a weird beard. So I've just grabbed some of that black color and dipped a little bit into my orange, and that's just helping me create a dark brown. And I'm going to use that color to paint the eyes in. So they're pretty big eyes for the size of paper that I'm painting on. We've seen some really small-eyed dogs before, but this is kind of big. So I'm just using my size 6 brush for this. If that feels a bit overwhelming, you can switch to something smaller. My detail brush is a size 3/0. I'm just very carefully tracing around the shape, keeping it in the inside. Again, it's not going to matter too much if you go a little bit outside of the bounds because we are painting black around it, which is a little bit darker. You could fix up any mistakes you make then. Similar thing on the other side, just bear in mind when you've got a subject that is looking off to the side, usually that far eye is going to look smaller or a different shape slightly or even a little bit cut off. If we painted them exactly the same size and shape, it would look a bit crazy because it's not supposed to be. That one's further away. I've just dipped into some pre-made black, but you could still be using the one you mixed, there's no problem. But I'm just going to use this to paint in the nostrils. I just often dip straight into that one just so it's a little bit darker and a little bit different from the black that I'll paint on top of it, so they still stand out. So painting our little comma-shaped nostrils very carefully. But again, I'm using my size 6 because I guess they're a lot bigger than some of the others we've painted. And sketching the little split down between them. Again, they're going to look like, you know, cousins or sisters, not twins, because one is off on an angle. Drying that all off, and now we can get started on this really fun fur. So I really wanted this to look kind of, is airy the right word? Probably not. Just a little bit blobby, a little bit looser. So I've gone in really heavy with the color now on the far edge, doing a little few fur strokes out to the side at the top of the ear. But then I'm going to go in with water and really just try and vary up the way that this looks. It looked too heavy as soon as I put it down like this. I was like, ugh, this just feels like a lot. So I start to introduce water and get things just flowing a little bit more and breaking it up a little bit instead of just looking like such intense blocks of color. So doing the same on the other ear at this stage. Wrapping that nice and close against the face. Like, see how at this point it's not clear that it's even been painted with watercolor. It's very just blocky feeling, and I wanted to bring back the effect of watercolor. That's generally always a goal of mine in my paintings, is to make something look like it was painted with what it was painted with. And at the moment, I'm not doing a very good job of that. So we are going to do something about that soon. But for now, I'm just tucking this black color up against the orange. So I think I painted that a little bit liberally, like I didn't need it as far as it went along the neck, but it gives me something to work with, and I can just negatively paint around it with the black and tuck in nice and close. Fix any shapes that I might not like. Wrapping that right around the snoot, and then dipping into water and flowing that down. So once I start to see a little bit of that at the bottom, I'm like, wait a minute, I need to do something about these ears. So I lift off a little highlight on the far side, do the same thing on this side, thinking I'm just going to create some highlights on the folds, but then I really just want to increase the flowiness when we get to the rest of it. So dipping in and popping that color across the top of the head. Rinsing off my brush and just kind of inviting that color down with water. So I've got more of a watery color around these eyebrows right now. I'm gonna put more of a darker color there so we can cut them out. Just like I mentioned, don't be worried if you went and painted these big giant orange eyebrows in and now I've changed the plan for you. You can still go in there with dark watercolor. It's also going to make them pop more if you put the really dark colour right next to the really pale orange colour. Whereas if we did this whole face pale, it might not pop as much. So I'm taking this dark colour very carefully all around the eye, and I've got started there on that little inner corner area that is kind of coming down on the far side of the nose. Sketching that colour in, literally very sketchy strokes, dipping into some water, and now I'm going to connect that up to the far side of the face. So I'm really going to leave that like that so it can dry a little bit and we do get the separation between that side of the face and the snoot. But I've put some more water down on the other part that's still wet, and now I'm going in with the dark black colour again to carve out this eye, separate the eyebrow from it, and start to define that, inviting a little bit more black colour down just around the top of that eyebrow. Far side of the face now, getting started there. Taking that colour down the inner corner of the left eye, similar to what we've done on the other side. Jumping into some water and filling in the gaps there. Again, I put dark black colour down near the orange marking and making that stand out. A little bit of water down the side of the nose, and I'm keeping gaps in between the paper there as well to make all this stuff stand out a little better instead of blobbing together as one. So I'm leaving a gap between the far side of the face and this nose. You can see it down the edge of the nose. Going in with dark black colour, filling in the gap there, and bringing that down towards the nose. I'm just going to fill the whole nose in rather than paint it separately. Taking that right over the nostrils, bringing that shape a little bit further over on both sides. A little bit more on the top of the head, just playing around at this point, seeing what feels good. Popping a little bit of what looks like, because of the glazing, just little brownie patches on the orange. So that's just using very watery black on that part. Lifting off a little highlight on the tip of the nose to make that stand out against the black fur. And a little bit more on the top of the head. Just kind of pushing and pulling the paint around, and then we're going to dry that all off. And I'm going to paint in a little smile now, the two kind of openings on the either side of the mouth, just coming down from the center of the nose. And then I'm going to paint a little, like the opening of the mouth at the back. It always just looks a little bit more dramatic. Dragging that down a bit. So I think you could definitely go more blobby on the ears. I'm sorry, I'm just adding a little pupil type thing at the top of these eyes. Not exactly where they should be and not exactly the size. I've done them bigger. I just wanted to darken the top of those eyes to highlight them. But yeah, I think you can make the ears blobbier too, make it a little bit more airy there. Dipping into some white, and we're going to highlight these big beautiful eyes now. So I'm just going to pop in a couple little blobs at the top. So I'm just dabbing 1, 2, onto the other side, 1, 2, dabbing off some excess and just doing a little crescent at the bottom. Same with the left eye. That's just going to help make them pop a little bit as well. Dipping in again, and we're going to do a little bit, oh, I didn't dip in again, but we're going to do the nostrils. So I'm going under each nostril just to make it look a little bit moist there. And a tiny little highlight on top of the nose. Dipping into some black with my 3/0. I'm going to define some of the eye details now, but I do swap to my size 6 shortly. So I'm just kind of outlining the top of the eye at the moment, making that a bit darker there. Just aiming to give it a tiny little bit more of an expression. but it is quite hard to do this kind of thing with such a small brush. Filling in a little bit of gap on the side of the face that looked a bit too dramatic, and on the far side. Again, just going around these eyes. Inner corner on the left. Inner corner on the right, just trying to deepen it up there. Grabbing my size 6 now to basically repeat this, but have it a bit more dramatic. So just dipping into black and dabbing off the excess. I'm just going around the inner corner of this right eye and now the left. Around the top. Really going around those eyebrows, making them look very raised in the middle. It looks kind of guilty or just nervous. Deepening under the eye. And on the left. A little bit over the top of the head. I'm now going to, once I spread this around, I'm going to dip into some black and paint a couple of whiskers, and then we are all done. It's going straight into Mars Black this time, and I'm just going to pull a couple of whiskers out to the side from the muzzle, flicking them out, very short ones, and a few on the other side as well. But that is our little Dashie. I think this one's super adorable. I hope you like this one too, and I'll see you in the next one.